Influencer games are a threat to the industry. I think that at the start, influencer games are going to be very, very successful and make a lot of money and create a big wave. But after a while, as more people start doing it, I think it's gonna just drop down and sink like a rock. It's gonna be a money burning operation after a while.
Love them or hate them, influencers are running headlong into game development. Lately, I've witnessed this really interesting trend where I've started to see more popular Twitch streamers and YouTube content creators getting involved in game development. Whether that's publishing or promoting, funding, or developing their own games, they are bringing more games into the market, and it's raising a lot of questions. Are they just using their platforms to leverage their audience's naivety and try to scam them out of a few extra dollars like we've seen in the past with other products?
Most likely not. This is typically a crypto thing because it's so much easier. Faking a game as already an established personality, that's going to destroy you. So this is going to be super rare, most likely.
Are these games being made on the back of inflated egos where because of their popularity, they believe they know game development better than anybody else? Or are we witnessing the beginning of an incredible...
I think that is going to be the biggest one. Because there are so many gaming YouTubers, gaming streamers that they think that they understand gaming better than everyone else. But the reality is, they understand gaming worse than everyone else. Because they don't represent even close to the average person. They typically represent like 0.00 of the player base. Because how many people can nowadays play games for 8 or more hours a day? Not that many. Which means they're not encountering the same problem that streamers, that YouTubers and whatnot are. Because they just don't play the game so much. So the problems that these people who play the game for that many hours a day encounter are completely different than the average person.
Incredible trend where those who are deeply attuned to the wants and needs of players are delivering on those wants and needs and making games specifically for them. Streamers and YouTube content creators have become a staple of the gaming industry over the years. At first, these folks just started out with guides and reviews and let's plays to the more varied experiences of entertainment that we have today. If you play games, you likely have a few people that you follow. Maybe it's for different reasons. Maybe you find them funny or entertaining, you enjoy their critical analysis, or you hope to improve your skills at a game by watching somebody else that's more skilled than you. Or you could be in that complete other camp of people that watch people because you hate them, which is really weird and you really probably should stop. That's not healthy.
Hey, some opinions are just so stupid you need to talk about them, okay?
Regardless, this sector of the industry has grown year over year without stopping. In 2023, YouTube generated $31.5 billion in revenue, with roughly 18% of that coming from gaming-focused content. And Twitch reported earnings of $2.8 billion in 2022. Something that started out as players just wanting to share their thoughts and opinions in gameplay.
There's a lot of money in gaming, but you need to ask yourself the question, how much profit is there in gaming?
Play has now evolved into one of the most profitable ventures online and only continues to grow as gaming has become the biggest wing of the entertainment industry, now outpacing both movies and music. As the popularity of streaming and YouTube content has increased,
I mean, with how rapidly movies are devolving into absolute shit, I mean, that's kind of a thing you would expect.
so has the role of these creators, as many of them have become the new wave of video game marketing, exerting more and more influence over the industry every year. A report in 2021 showed that gaming creators are 53% more likely to have loyalty in their audience capture over the rest of any other type of content.
Well, yeah. I mean, I understand that. That's why every gamer on Twitch has a deal with some kind of PC build or whatever like that. They sell their mouses and things because that's what people trust them on. The reality is, it's not actually that gaming YouTubers and Twitch streamers have an actual more loyal fan base than bloggers, entertainers, sports fans, or whatever, per se. It's just the fact that gaming has way more accessories attached to it. Think about it. How many accessories do you have with music and dancing? Not that many. Not that many. with beauty products, there's a billion beauty products that they're promoting. No one can buy every single one of them because they're expensive. But gaming? Well, everyone can only promote one PC brand. Everyone can only promote one mouse and, headset company and whatever. So, yeah, the brand loyalty is pretty high because it's just an industry that has, by definition, a very loyal base. Because there's not so many options like everywhere else that they can promote in the first place.
The rest of any other type of content. Advertisers see that loyalty and they want to capitalize on it, with Business Insider reporting that gaming influencer marketing has grown from $822 million in 2019 to $4.4 billion by 2022. And it makes sense why this industry is growing so fast. The price of
Then show us the 2023 drop.
games has increased and wages have tightened. Players are more cautious about their spending and would much rather hear about new games from a trusted source or watch someone else play a game with that they resonate so that they can make a smarter purchase. This has led to massive profits for many of these creators. So from my perspective, it would make a lot of sense that some of these creators one day are going to reach the point where they just want to cut out the middleman and promote the games that they make instead. And to be honest, I feel like this is more of a logical conclusion than anything else. I would imagine that a lot of other content creators and streamers and such probably dreamt of making games of their own one day, like I did, but for one reason or another, you just never found yourself down that path in life, and here you are doing this instead, and now they see the opportunity to do the one thing that they've always dreamed of doing, and they're taking that opportunity to do so. And it's smart of them to do it in the first place. You have to realize that in a lot of cases with a lot of these audiences, they find people that they like watching for whatever reason. Maybe they find them entertaining, maybe they just like them as a person, and as such, they want to support whatever this person ends up doing, as long as it's something that obviously resonates with them. And if it's a game that they're making, then yeah, likely they're going to give it a shot. I mean, even thinking about it from my own perspective, there are a ton of creators that are out there that I wait for their take before I even give a game a shot in the first place, or at least I had to begin with. Now it's more based on my own opinion to try to, cut that leash off more than anything else, but you get the point. And there's a lot of people that do that. So it makes sense for these guys to want to make games of their own.
Well, yeah. People don't trust news sites anymore, especially for gaming. Like, what are you gonna do? Go watch the Kotaku review or an IGN review that's gonna give Starfield a 11 out of 10? Or are you actually gonna watch someone play? Well, you're probably gonna watch someone play if you did not pre-order, which is the smart thing to do.
Because they're likely already going to have an audience, and that's a big hurdle to jump over. Two of the most recent examples that inspired this video is Asmongold with his publishing company Mad Mushroom, and the recent breakout success of Video Game Donkey's Big Mode, which is a publishing company that published Animal Well to both critical and player acclaim. Now,
yeah, and this is why I think the influencer industry games are gonna absolutely implode after a while. It's because of Donkey and Animal Well. The game is good. No, not a lot of people are disputing that. The game is good, it's interesting, it's cool and whatnot, but you need to think about this also from this perspective. What is Animal Well? Well, it's a puzzle platformer, one of the nichest things in the gaming market, and yet it's a absolute hit of a success. That's not because the game is good itself. That's because it's Donkey promoted it and it's Donkey's first game. So everyone's interested to see, is it good or bad or what's happening there. That's what's happening. And by the way, it's not even Donkey's game. So a different guy made it. Donkey just published it. That's how it works. And this game is getting way more attention than it would ever receive. And everyone's interested in it because there's Donkey, and every influencer on YouTube has a certain amount of people that they kind of associate themselves with and whatnot. Different groups of people with overlapping interests, with overlapping fans and things like that. So, Donkey makes a game, someone else in his group of influence makes a game, and, after one or two games, everyone's tired of these new releases because honestly, who cares? And then it just all goes up in flames. That's how I think this is gonna work out.
these aren't the first to take the plunge. Other creators have tested the waters with mobile games like PewDiePie, who released games like PewDiePie's Legend of the Brofist, Pixelings, and Tuber Simulator.
Did this even do good? I don't remember.
Accumulating millions of downloads, with Tuber Simulator being the most standout success at 28 million downloads across both iOS and Android. When you're one of, if not the most famous creator on the platform, regardless of whatever the game is,
Also, this was old AF.
it's likely going to
Wasn't it?
receive more attention than other games would. And when you've involved your community in the development of these games and advertised them frequently on your channel, you're likely to see some level of success because content creators, by existing, have already overcome the largest hurdle for the vast majority of game developers that are out there, finding and capturing an audience.
True.
2024's biggest hit so far, Palworld, was a great game, a great idea, built on the back of a common interest of creature collection games like Palworld and the continued success of survival games. However, even with a game that eventually reached 25 million players, it wasn't guaranteed to have an audience during its production, and ultimately they were having to rely on their marketing, word of mouth, and the quality of their game to be able to find the eyes of players. Similarly, in the same way that FromSoft, Blizzard, Capcom, and others have developed an audience through releasing games over the years, giving them a fandom to be able to position their games for and sell to.
Well, I mean, Blizzard now is doing everything in their power to actively destroy the fandom that once cherished them by wanting a new audience of special people that don't exist, don't care about your product, do not buy your product, and in general are not gonna ever be profitable.
Content creators have built up a following that allows them to be able to do the same without ever releasing a product into the market. This is the biggest hurdle for first-time game studios and indie developers, and that's the lack of affordability in trying to market their games and their ability to try to find an audience. Creators leveraging their platforms can easily sidestep this issue as they often have a massive viewer and subscriber base to be able to market and position their games for. Now, keep in mind, subscriber and follower counts, while relevant, they're not the only metric that you'd use to measure the reach of any of these creators. Asmongold, as an example, has 2.5 million subscribers on YouTube. However, that doesn't reflect the returning viewers that often watch videos without ever subscribing. To put it plainly, the vast majority of viewers don't subscribe to channels they watch because, well, the algorithm is going to serve them that content regardless. As such, the reach of these creators is far beyond what common metrics show, and oftentimes are even greater than the reach of some of these biggest studios and publishers.
He has a point, but, you know, I don't know if he has a point about the reach of the biggest studios
that are out in the market.
The biggest studios obviously have way more of a reach than PewDiePie even, or things like that.
All with the added benefit that they are more trusted because they don't represent big corporations and have more credibility because...
I mean, but now they do. That's also a thing. How long is this trust gonna last now that they do represent the wants and needs of big companies? I mean, look at this. This is OTK. Starforged is overpriced garbage. You're literally paying a markup like you're buying fucking Gucci. That is what you're honestly doing, and some people are too stupid to realize that.
Because many of these creators often air their own personal opinions about whatever more frequently out in the open. Already having an audience before you actually have a product is an incredibly powerful tool to have in the back of your pocket. And the funny thing is the vast majority of people that are underestimating.
Also, obviously this works because merch selling works. But again, merch selling doesn't actually work. Like, hear me out, listen. So, merch sales are decent, but merch sales never work out. Merch sales only have worked out for one creator in the history of all of the industry. I don't remember what's his name, but there's a reason why it worked out for him and no one else. You see, let's look back. Let's find some. Okay, again, OTK. Who the fuck is buying OTK t-shirts? No one is doing that unless they actually just want to support the creators. It's not a thing you buy. Like, all of the creator merch looks like a fucking clown fiesta. That's what it looks like. It has some kind of loser on it. It has their face on it. It has their channel name on it. It has dumb stuff like that. And still, they make a lot of money. because people just want to support them. But the reality is, that is the dumbest thing you can do. I forgot what's the name of this channel, but that channel is pretty big, and it makes roughly 10 times more than any other channel in merch. And it's a completely normal channel done by some dude. It does have like 10 million subs, but its merch numbers are absolutely destroying everything else in the every other channel in the industry, even channels that are way bigger than him. And you know why? Because his merch does not have his face on it, because his merch does not have, oh, I'm a subscriber of some kind of rando dude on the internet. No. He sells stuff that actually looks good, is decent quality, and people want to buy it because it looks cool. His merch doesn't even have a single... none of his merch has any of his logos, any of his name, or his face on it, or his, anything on it. It's just decent stuff that they're selling. And an even better example of this is, for example, Prime Energy Drink by Logan Paul. Logan Paul and KSI are the driving factors of that thing to succeed, because again, it's an established, it's a huge fan base, and it's 10-year-olds, which actually is super important, because if your fan base is at the bunch of 10-year-olds, it's amazing, because they literally don't care if you kill an orphanage or set it on fire or whatever. They don't care what kind of drama you're in, and they will share your content with other people constantly, because they think it's cool, and they want they want other people to think it's cool because they watch you and whatnot. It's crazy, okay? But Prime doesn't have them on the bottle. It doesn't have Logan Paul, KSI's faces on the bottle. It doesn't have any of them. They use themselves in the marketing to go after their own fans and make it more popular. But outside that, it's just a drink. It's just a drink that tastes better than any other sports drink, because it's not as good as any other sports drink. That's what's happening. There is a difference.
You actually have a product is an incredibly powerful tool to have in the back of your pocket. And the funny thing is the vast majority of people that are underestimating the impact that influencers are having, the people that are actually consuming that content to begin with. But do you know who's not underestimating that? Advertisers. That's one of the reasons why many of these companies have been funneling so much money into influencer advertising, because, well, that's just the future of where marketing is going now. Recently in a video of mine, I talked about how I think communication is the new form of marketing, because the vast majority of people, myself included, don't want to have anything to do with ads or commercials or anything of the sort. Conventional marketing doesn't work the way that it used to anymore. Product placement, all those kind of things, all that stuff is out the window. Now what we want to do is we want to put a product to a face.
Product placement is not out the window at all.
We want to see somebody use something. We want a critical analysis from somebody that we trust before we buy something, because many of us are more cautious with our money. And that...
No one's more cautious with their money. Arguably, people are way less cautious with their money. If people were more cautious with their money, how the fuck do you explain people going and playing, mobile games that are clear scams like Hero Wars or whatever? You can't. People are less cautious with their money because people have gotten dumber over the years.
Puts a lot of these streamers and content creators in a really advantageous position to be able to sell products of their own, because they already have that audience there. They've already built up that trust. They already have a reputation to withhold and upstand. And with that, well, more people are likely to be more interested in the things that they make. Now, I would imagine there are a few
That's true.
of you that are out there that are asking, who are they to make video games? While many creators talk and play games frequently, that doesn't mean that they have the insight to make a great game. Hell, many creators that are out there don't even know how games are made or understand the intricacies of their design. We often are...
I mean, that's completely irrelevant to everyone. If you don't understand the intricacies of some kind of rando design, that doesn't mean you can't make a good game. Completely irrelevant.
Are incredibly opinionated about games, either for or against, but we don't understand the decisions that were made or how systems within a game were implemented in the first place. There is the potential that these influencer games could be nothing more than influencers' egos that are inflated by their popularity, leading them to believe that they understand games enough to direct teams or produce a game. However, while I think there is going to be some of that in the future, I think it's important to not overlook the unique perspective of
There is going to be a lot of that in the future because that's just human nature. It is just pure, blatant, unexcusable human nature to do so. Everyone who becomes big, everyone who becomes a millionaire, multimillionaire, or a billionaire, thinks that they know better than others. And the brutal reality is, yeah, they definitely know some things that better than others. That's how they made it. If you know nothing, or you do nothing better than anyone else, you're probably not making it. Let's be real. It's really hard to actually luck out that hard and become that, unless you win the lottery or something. But when you become a millionaire, billionaire, while it's true that you are better than other people at something, the problem arises that most people start to believe that they're better than everyone else in everything to a certain degree. The inflated ego thing is extremely, extremely real. Again, we watch Asmongold videos so often where he just completely talks out of his ass about psychology, how humans work, and things like that, where he doesn't even understand that the color red means danger. And he's like, no, the color red is good for a quit button because, yeah, reasons. It's the most dumbest thing ever. And obviously, well, if you're a gamer, you probably think you understand what gamers like in games more and whatnot and all of these things. It's gonna be a huge disaster because ego-driven is a part of human nature.
content creators or their awareness of trends. When you play games for a living or talk about them frequently with an audience, you slowly learn how to better voice your opinions and refine your tastes. You quickly recognize things that you like and things that you don't like, but you have the added ability to be able to contrast those opinions against the broader canvas of an audience. As an example, I recently started playing Warframe for the first time. I lamented over the time gating restriction on the game's crafting system, where some items could take anywhere from 12 hours up to 3.5 days to craft. I had assumed immediately that everyone hated it. However, the more viewers I polled, the more people that I talked to, the more I found that this mechanic really didn't bother that many people. After playing the game longer, I realized that once you're in the...
I don't actually understand what he means. 12 hours of in-game time to craft when you press craft, or 12 in-game hours of farming to make it. Because there's a huge difference. Because if it's the latter, I don't agree with that, you know? A game having goals that take long to achieve is fun, is cool.
The thick of the game, you have so many things crafting that you're always putting something in and taking something out, and the time gating becomes less and less of an issue. Through those conversations, this allowed me in real time to refine that opinion from time...
It seems it was the former from that sentence.
Gating is terrible to it's terrible for a new player, as new players want to have access to things quickly because they don't have the arsenal that many of these mid to late game players have access to. It's important to make that distinction because now I've turned something that was just a feeling into a well-positioned game design philosophy that players don't want to play a game that heavily restricts them out of the gate. However, players further into a game can use restrictions to...
You know why I think this thing is bigger than Warframe? It's because there's three spectrums of shooter game speed. There's really slow, like for example, take something like Counter-Strike, but think of it in a, I don't know, a multiplayer loader shooter setting. You know, there's that level of slowness, which is appealing to a lot of people. Then there's the mid-level of slowness, which is Destiny, in my opinion. You know, you can do some things fast. You can move fast. You can shoot things fast, but you know, it's not super fast. And then there's Warframe, super fast.
Organize their play. That evolution of thought and perspective is incredibly insightful when developing a game, as long as these influencers are using critical thinking and their audience's opinions appropriately. As an example, Dr. Disrespect owns a game studio called Midnight Society, who's making an extraction shooter called Dead Drop. Doc has extensive experience playing battle royales and extraction shooters. He has the added experience of working at Sledgehammer Games before he ever even became a streamer. As such, he has the unique ability to not only properly communicate his experience to a team, he has the added access to a massive audience.
This is absolutely not true. He does not have magically a unique ability to convey stuff, convey stuff to a team or anyone, honestly. You can play a game, you can be extremely good at it, you can even have 10,000 hours into it, but you can't exactly pinpoint what actually makes the game good. That is a common thing that happens.
Audience whose tastes and opinions he can draw from at any moment, giving his studio the chance to make a game that suits player-specific needs rather than trying to appeal to a vague, broader audience that many of these studios that are out there have to do. Now, I want to be clear. I don't want people to think I'm glazing these creators or anything like that, because there is no guaranteed success here. We're not guaranteed to get a great game out of just about any content creator, Twitch streamer, influencer, or whoever's out there.
No, but you are probably guaranteed to make a bunch of sales, more than usually.
I'm saying is that they have the tools accessible to be able to make some really great games. Because just alone being able to have insightful criticism that you can canvas across an...
I honestly completely don't like this take. Usually when we're talking about our dude right here, I almost always completely disagree with all of these takes, honestly, and this is no exception, because influencers don't have this magical ability to understand games better than everyone. Because what is the opposite of that? That people are retarded and can't understand what makes games good? Hell no! Everyone can tell to say what they like about the game to a certain degree. Good shooting, bad shooting, interesting loot, good special abilities, and things like that. Everyone can do that. Influencers don't have some magical ability to just tell what's better or whatnot. Again, look at World of Warcraft Classic. Arguably the most popular World of Warcraft ever. It has been out for 20 plus years at this point, and people have tried to copy it time after time after time after time after time again, and everyone has failed. Because the reality is, we are not capable as humans to understand on a meta level what we actually like and enjoy about games more. We can kind of go into a direction that's most likely correct. For example, I said about Warframe and Destiny, the pace of the game. Yeah, that's important. A lot of people are probably going to agree, but that's not the only thing that matters about the game. Okay? There's so many things. You can't point out to one and say, oh, this is going to make it successful or not. Because if it was that easy, then World of Warcraft would not be the most popular MMORPG out there. Because everyone would have already copied it, improved upon it, and there's no reason to play the original one anymore, because there's so many better versions out there already. We on a meta level completely don't understand what actually makes a game good. We just vaguely get what kind of makes games good.
Audience is way strong. That gives you the ability to really understand the wants and needs of players at a level that many of these big studios and publishers that are out there just don't.
Also, completely disagree I said about this. Your opinions of a game, if you play for 8 hours every single day, are going to be completely different to the opinions of someone who plays it for 1 or 2 hours every other day. Not even close.
Don't have access to that kind of information. They get bombarded on message boards, forums, and things like that, but it's hard to distill that down to a common complaint or a poignant complaint. Maybe that's the way I want to say it. A distilled complaint that makes sense in game development or makes sense in game theory or whatever it might be. But with that said, keep in mind that these guys are people that are actually playing games, and that's really important. That's one of the biggest criticisms that we often have towards many of the biggest publishers and studios that are out there, is whether or not they even play games to begin with, or play their own game for that matter. That's something
true.
that you're able to hold these guys accountable for.
Well, yeah, but the reason we say that is because we find typically small things that make absolutely no sense, like, how did you even allow this to go into the game? Like, for example, Diablo 4. Needing to store 50 billion items while you only have 3 items spaces. Like, There is no way you can play the game and think this is a normal system. That is typically the complaint, honestly.
For are you actually playing your game? I only saw you play it once as a promotional thing. I didn't see you play it after that. Well, you must not really like the game or think it's very good. There you go. So this gives the added benefit for consumers to be able to see things a little bit more transparently, but even more so, I think it's really important to keep in mind that a lot of content creators that are out there, well, they eat by a lot of these games. They know what trends are happening, when something's hot, when something's not, when to press the gas, when to take their foot off the gas, when to walk away entirely. They often do, and you'll see exactly when it happens, and it's because they recognize that players' expectations aren't being met or players' interests are starting to go in a different direction.
This is like really jacking off the content creators, okay? Any idiot knows this because you have metrics called viewership, okay? It doesn't take a genius to understand if a new game comes out and your average viewer rate goes from 1K to like 3K, and then it starts dropping and it's backward below 1K, that the interest in the game has most likely, at the bare minimum, died down a little bit. It doesn't take a genius for it. Kill me.
And being able to understand when and where that happens is probably the most powerful tool of all. From my perspective, one of the biggest weaknesses of today's gaming industry is the lack of affordability and accessibility of games on the market. Many of the biggest studios that are out there refuse to spend less than $250 million to make a game. They charge $70 for a base version and ignore the plight of consumers who want less monetization, smaller games, and cheaper games. A trend that I think is well illustrated by both Helldivers 2 and Palworld earlier this year, breaking sales records. While many of these creators have built their careers on the backs of major games, many of them are often critical of anti-consumer actions of many of the companies that are out there, like Sony trying to block Helldivers 2 from over 170 countries, the existence of loot boxes in games, or just the over-monetization.
That's a misunderstanding. Sony doesn't care about Helldivers. Sony is Sony. They make tanks. How many times can I say this? Sony makes tanks and guided missiles that are so precise they can kill one singular person while a whole family is eating dinner at the table. Okay? Sony does not exactly care that much about Helldivers. You know, 100K or 200K people. Honestly, they don't. They don't. Plus, for Sony, it's way more beneficial to get them in the PSN program in general than, you know, Helldivers succeeding. It's just the truth. You need to understand the motivation of these big companies. Also, I'm getting tired of this. Anyway, that was a pretty good video. That was Legendary Drops. This channel, I do disagree with him on pretty much every hard factual opinion ever, though, which is kind of funny. But I like him because he's not that off, in my opinion, too often. I mean, maybe he doesn't say a thing that I think is critical, which maybe isn't even objective. Anyway, this was Quizzer Sensei, and thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Bye-bye, and have a nice day.